You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksınlar gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. İbrahim pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 95 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Sinan Schwarting, live from a rainy, wintry New York City. And coming with me, once again, your favorite co-host and mine, Kaan, everyone! Coming from Belgium. How you doing?
I want to make it there, or something like that. New York, New York.
Waregem. Wait, are you in Waregem? Where are you in Belgium?
I don't even know what Waregem is. Oh, Waregem. No, I am not in Waregem.
My friend, not only did I butcher it, but I got my geography up.
I'm like, what is he saying? What is Waregem? What is that? Is that like a variation on the? Is that like a secret lyric to the New York song by Frank Sinatra that I am not aware of? No, I am nowhere near Waregem. I am in well, let's just say Antwerp.
Antwerp, okay. Anyway,
we have songs.
Saw me butcher some Belgian.
We have songs about Antwerp. Let me introduce you. It goes a little bit like this. Antwerpen, zeg over mij. Toch de stad waar als ik zijn geboren. Look it up. It's from The Strangers.
Okay. I think Frank Sinatra, it's one thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm obviously kidding. I hate the people who get too snotty about being from New York.
Well, you have Sinatra, we have The Strangers,
Yeah, sure. Sinatra, The Stranger.
I think it's the first time ever that The Strangers have been talked about on a Turkish football-related podcast.
I'm actually quite fond of, I'm not like a big fan of her music in general, but Alicia Keys' New York. New York. That's it. I like that one.
All right. Na, na, na, na, na, na, na, na.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good song.
It is. It's a good, I feel like that in like 50 years, they'll probably be playing that at the stadium here. I have a feeling. But anyway, we are so off topic. Beşiktaş. Everybody, we're still fans. Don't get us wrong. And we have a big week actually. We have a lot to talk about this week. From a triumphant return to the National Cup, and a good one on top of it. To I think we'll probably talk about the Europa League. After that, we're not going to go in chronological order just to get that bummer out of the way, and then of course there's the Kasimpaşa match, which could have gone poorly. Beşiktaş, let's just say going into that match, had not gotten a result in away against Kasimpaşa in some time. So
since 2014.
Yes, exactly. So one could have been dire or pessimistic going into it, but in this case, we're going to be ending the episode on a high. So anyway, let's talk some football. Kaan, I guess first, let's talk 24 Erzincanspor. Do you have any idea why they're called 24 Erzincanspor? What's the 24?
No clue.
What is that? It's so weird. I feel like Erzincanspor would pretty much get the job done. But anyway, only kind of...
they're in the 4th division, so...
Yeah, that's worthy of note. We won't get too far into details on these first two matches. We'll do our stats and everything with Kasimpaşa. What I do want to talk about are the lineup, the decisions Abdul Avci made as far as who was going to play in the domestic cup, versus in the league, versus then again in the Europa League. That would be one thing that changed around quite a bit in all three matches, and sometimes to good effect, sometimes less so. But we'll talk about it all. And in this case, the lineup was interesting, as you would expect in a domestic cup against a fourth division side. We saw Utku Yuvakuran playing in the goal. Erdoğan Kaya and Enzo Rocco on the back line. Necip we saw on the right side of the defense. Lobosho on the left. Germain Lenz, another start on the wing. With who was the other winger in this match? Oh,
Tyler Boyd.
Yes, Tyler Boyd, exactly. And Johnny came in for him. Okay, sorry. So Germain Lenz and Tyler Boyd played together with El Neni and Muhayer playing in the middle of the midfield. Umut Nair would play up front. The surprise for me, if anything, was seeing El Neni in the starting lineup. Even maybe Lobosho, although I guess Caner is the go-to on the left back option often for Abdul Avci, so that was less of a surprise. But certainly seeing El Neni used in a match like this was a bit of a surprise to me. Did you have any thoughts, Kaan?
No, I think that was a logical rotation, given the injuries we've had this season, not to overextend key players, and against a modest opposition, they should get the job done. So I get putting El Neni in there, like, just to put a little bit of just to fortify it a little bit. You don't want to put down a full youth team, I think, but I think that Ozan would have made more sense, honestly. But
I'll say, I mean, that's a good call. It would probably have chosen Ozan.
I guess then Muhayer wouldn't have started. Well, I think with Muhayer, Ozan would have been a little bit too offensive in midfield, perhaps. So, I don't know.
I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have probably put Necip, if you're going to play him, in the defensive midfielder slot, so that you could play Muhayer, and then on the right back play Kerem Kalifat or something.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. Yeah,
and I see one point I'll make is that this lineup for me is far better than what we saw against Wolverhampton, as far as mixing young guys in, not overdoing it so much. So that's one positive about this lineup, and I don't know, the results. Let's talk about the match itself. So of course the end result is Beşiktaş won this one fairly comfortably in the end, 3-0. You have anything to say about the general play, Kaan? Like, how did we look?
Hold on, I have to go back a bit. Wasn't too impressed, I think. Result was okay. I mean, 3-0 is obviously a good result because, basically you're one leg into the next round. So you get the job done there. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a particularly good performance. I liked Tyler Boyd in the first half. He was taking a lot of initiative, but then I didn't see him in the second half until he got subbed. Like, he felt like he just faded out. Güven was bad. Umut was... and I didn't like the way that the Umut-Güven partnership worked at all. I mean, I didn't think it worked, to be quite frank, in either match. Where I should expect Güven to flourish when there's a striker for him to play off of, but no, for me, that chapters should be closed. Should be getting closed. No.
Which chapter are we talking about? Güven?
The Güven chapter, for me, Güven just shouldn't be playing anymore. Yeah. He should. We're very close to the winter break. I really hope that he gets sent out on loan or even sold. I couldn't care less anymore at this point. I don't see him having any potential at all. There's no glimpses of signs of anything. But the thing with I spoke about it in the group earlier too. 32. Like, at least with Kyle Larin, you could see that there were some glimpses of him having some instincts that a striker requires. Like, and I harken back to remember that position in the last minute against Malmo last season, where he almost scored the equalizer that would have actually seen us through to the next round in the Europa League, to round of 32. But obviously, he didn't score that. But he did do well to get into that position, and that did show some Tor instinct, I think. Whereas I just don't have the feeling that Guven has that at all. He scored some nice goals last season, but it always kind of was like, I don't know. And then this season he's been like, it's not like he's missing some good chances where people are basically offering it on a silver platter, but I don't feel like he's making good runs. He's not making good runs, and he's just turning into problems. When he gets the ball into his feet, then he turns straight into the knife of the defender, so to speak. He seems incapable of giving a decent pass. Now, I do have to say that against Kasimpaşa, actually, he did actually give an okay pass over a couple of meters that actually let that was involved in the build-up to the ultimate winner. So, sometimes he manages to give a decent short pass, I guess. But no, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I just don't want to see that guy anymore. He's just so bad right now.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. I absolutely agree, Kaan. Terrible. He's really not. The development that we both knew was necessary, even though he'd had a positive start, has clearly not occurred.
He should be making an impression against a team like this. And you know what? Maybe in the return he will do something positive. But I just don't have the feeling that's this season. I don't know what it is with him. Like, I don't think he has confidence. But quite frankly, I also don't think he has the ability. There's just, I don't know. With Lauren, you could always see like there has to be, I said it last season multiple times. Like, I don't think he's good enough to play for Beşiktaş, but I think he could do well at a smaller club. And I said that before about Güven, but honestly, I don't know if he could actually handle the Super League. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if he could ever be like, let's say, a prime Ilhan Parlak. Who now is playing for Ankara Gücü and is not good enough for the Super League anymore. But I don't know if Güven could even attain that level. I honestly don't, and I hope I'm wrong, of course, and I hope he does more with his career. But I mean,
my inclination is like, when you think of the other however many teams we've got in this league. 17 other teams. Sorry, I was like, do you have 20 other teams? Yeah, 17 other teams. There are a lot of mediocre to bad strikers especially like when you get to the bottom end of the table. When you're talking about clubs that are going up and down. I think
if you look at Umut is a mediocre striker with limited technical capabilities, but he gets the most out of it.
Yeah, he puts the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, he's a limited footballer, but he's a footballer. With Güven, I don't even have the feeling that he's a footballer. At times. Wow. I'm being super. I'm just I'm taking out the rusty spoon right now. I don't know what to say about Güven.
Yeah, I mean, he was bad, and like the fact that I had forgotten that he played in this match is probably telling. The fact that
he should be doing better against a 4th division side, especially with the amount of minutes he's getting. He has no excuse for not to be in any sort of match fitness or anything. Like he should be, 100% ready. These types of games is where he should be putting his mark on. If he wants to ever be a proper Beşiktaş player, these are the types of moments he needs to seize at the age 20.
Well, and there's another element to this that I think is a little more troubling, even in the bigger picture. You see a team like that one put out against 24 Erzincanspor. It's just saying 24 Erzincan is funny to me, but
Yeah, it does.
but when you have a team like that with a lot of young guys, and then even young guys who aren't necessarily young like that, like in the way of Tyler Boyd or Umut Nair or whatever, but who are relatively new to the team and still establishing themselves within it. And then you have Guven, who among all of those guys has had the most time on the pitch, the most time to settle and establish himself with the team. He, of all of the young guys, should be something of an anchor, a positive force, someone, at the very least, he should be one of our better young guys, given the hope we've put in him and the time we've given him out there that we haven't given to other guys.
And he's getting time over other players.
Yeah.
Like we paid 2.4 million euros for Tyler Boyd, and Guven is getting minutes above him in every single match. I don't understand that.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that Boyd is necessarily a success. Of course, he is. Thus far, he hasn't been. But I think we made a certain investment in him where I think we should at least be trying to get a return on our investment there. Whereas I think in Guven, the only thing we've invested thus far is his time, honestly, because he didn't cost us anything significant. He's not on a big contract or anything like that.
But that time is starting to get pretty valuable because it's logging up, it's racking up.
He's hampering other players. I mean, I think if you give Boyd those minutes that Guven has been getting, then maybe Boyd would be further along in his adjustment now.
I would guess he'd have like at least 3 goals at least.
Maybe he'd have a couple of goals or a couple of assists that would maybe got him, kick-started or whatever. Maybe he doesn't. But the thing is that I think what has Guven contributed in a positive way this season? I mean, he got a consolation goal against Trabzonspor, which had absolutely no significance. You never know. I mean, let's say we end on level points with Trabzonspor and we end up beating them at home 3-0 and we win the league title based on that. Then his goal obviously had significance.
It's a very specific scenario, though.
It's a very unlikely scenario. So honestly, the other goal he scored was, I think, the first one against Göztepe, which was a lucky tap. Well, it was an easy, so to speak, goal.
Just to wrap this up and move on, I'm in full agreement, and I think it really, this is another conversation, probably even for another episode, honestly, but it spells the need for a replacement. We need a second striker. He's not the answer. Umut Nair
is usually not even
much better.
He's not even coming in on the striker position. I think he's often coming in for a winger or a midfielder or whatever. And I think there's just like very frequently like he'll come in for like say Diaby or something, where I think okay that's where you put in Tyler Boyd then.
Exactly.
But he's taking minutes away from Boyd, and I know I'm 100% sure that there's people listening to the podcast right now and is thinking, Boyd's a flop. Boyd's a failure, blah, blah, blah.
Even Jermaine Lenz is making so much money and so much better as far as end product that we should at least be putting him out. I mean, your point stands, whether you're talking about Tyler Boyd or Jermaine Lenz or even some prospect that we haven't seen yet, because at this point, we'd be better off seeing if someone else has it when this man certainly does not. Right? Like, we can say that.
Yeah. The question then I have is why is he getting these minutes? Is like, does Abdullah Avci really have that much faith in him, or is it like, okay, you know what, this guy could potentially have value in the future? We want to, but I don't see it, that value.
Agreed.
I really don't. I mean, obviously, I'm not a professional scout or anything. Maybe I'm missing things, but I've got a bit of experience when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I'm not always right about players. I've been wrong. I've been very often been right too. I've been wrong plenty of times too. But like here, I really with Guven, I failed to see a real bright spot. Like, where is his value?
No,
I don't see him as a goal scorer. He's definitely not a creator.
The difference between him and going back to your previous point you were making, the difference between him and Kyle Larin, and I said this often, I think I was a little more hopeful than you I don't know. I just like the whole Brampton, Atiba thing, but I really hope that could work out. But honestly, with Kyle Larin, I genuinely felt, at least towards the end, my patience was frayed, but I really felt that Kyle Larin, if he just scored a couple goals in a match or in back-to-back matches or something, I genuinely felt that the confidence was the main thing lacking in him and his swagger. Like,
and that's definitely true, by the way.
Yeah, as we've seen in Belgium.
That in Belgium right now.
And with Gouven, I do not feel that, because he's even scored, as you mentioned, and it didn't kickstart anything within him. He still does the same things. He still takes those kind of wild shots from distance, and occasionally they'll go in, which they have, or whatever. Or
they haven't this season, though. And I wonder if the difference is where I think this is the big difference is I think last season when he had nothing to lose.
Yeah, because also the team was in dire straits.
And there was no pressure on him, whatever. I mean, if he did well, then great. If he didn't do anything, nobody would care.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's not easy for him. He's been thrust into this position where Burak Yilmaz was injured in the beginning of the season, and Umut was definitely not established yet,
and then
as
Burak
much as he is now.
Had struggled to sort of establish himself again, to reestablish himself. So I think, he had a lot of pressure.
But Gouven had a lot of pressure on him in the beginning of the season. He had to carry that front line as the striker, and he just crumbled under the pressure. But then now, I don't know what it is now, because Burak is back now, Umut's there, so there's a safety net. Maybe he's just got the feeling now, okay, I lost my spot to Umut, so maybe he's completely demotivated, and it's all up in his head. But
that's also
even
not good. He's young enough that he should be able to take his lump still and learn. There's still so much one could learn from being on the bench.
But even last season, I couldn't really put my finger on what made Gouven potentially special. Last season, the thing I liked about him was his work rate. He was often posted on the left wing, and he just ran his socks off.
But he didn't put your whole career on that,
he ran his socks off, but then he didn't really do anything useful with the ball or anything. It's not like he ever gave a proper true ball, or he put in a cross, he got involved in a couple of goals, and he scored a couple of decent goals last season. But a lot of them, I think, involve definitely some luck too, and sometimes you need that. But I don't know, last season even, I couldn't really say that's going to get him far in his career. Like with Cenk, for example, you could see certain abilities. Like I think Cenk is a pretty phenomenal header, especially for his size. I think you could also see that he's he's definitely got that Tor instinct. Cenk missed stuff, like he didn't really have the physicality, he didn't have the height, he didn't have speed either, to a certain extent. Like he checked a lot of boxes, like he was a lot of 7s out of 10, so to speak. Like he was pretty complete, but he didn't stand out anywhere. Whereas you have with Burak Yilmaz, you have he's not a very good header at all, but he's a decent finisher, but he's very good in getting into goal-scoring opportunities, making good runs, stuff like that, which puts him apart, which has gotten him far in his career. I think with Cenk, he lacked something to make him elite level, but he had a lot of things that he did well enough for him to have a good career. But with Gouven, I can't point at anything. I can't say like, oh,
at least he does. Yeah. What? Yeah. There's no end to that.
Apart from maybe he has I'd say a decent shot from distance, but it's not even like that's gonna earn him any. I mean, he's not gonna be able to make his bread and butter off of that. It's not good enough for that.
No, definitely not.
This has turned into a bash.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to be fair, there's not much to say about Erzincan, about the match. The one point that I will make, perhaps in closing and moving on to the next match, because I think it's something that did not ring through despite a similar backline. But the backline against 24 Erzincanspor was really solid, and of course they're playing against a 4th division side, so what do you expect? But I thought Erdogan Kaya and Enzo Rocco paired okay. Necip was all right on the right side, and Labosho on the left. We're going to skip over Kasimpaşa. Again, we'll come back to it. And so...
one more thing, I think that the most important part to take away from Erzincan was that Nkudu came off the bench and got injured.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that just goes to show you again why it is important to rotate, and I think it's important for us, especially given the amount of injuries we've had this season. I'm going to come back to this in a bit because there have been some criticisms about the lineup we put out against Wolverhampton. But I think that's exactly the reason why you don't risk those types of players. But then to put them in as a sub kind of baffles me.
Yes,
like you consciously make that decision not to want to risk these guys.
And then you bring him in anyway, and then he gets injured, which is why you didn't play him in the first place.
You bring him in a match you're winning 3-0. So
and then he also brought in Caner Erkin, which is like the even older guy who could be the other option on the wing, but you then also imperil. No, there was bad substitutes again. And we've talked, for me, that's the theme of Abdullah so far. Overall, I kind of approve of what he's doing. But that, for me, is the main criticism.
The issue, I think it's we call out these subs, but we also have to look at the options he has. I think that's also an issue. We have a lack of squad depth. We don't have a lot of options, especially on the wings. We lack options.
Well, and so this is actually a perfect segue into the Wolverhampton match. I'm going to go over the lineup we put out against Wolverhampton because, again, Kasimpaşa, we'll get back to, that was our sort of normal starting lineup. But against Wolverhampton, again, we only had 3 points in the Europa League. This was a dud of a match, a lame duck session, if you will. We had no reason to really play anything close to a starting lineup, and we would not.
It would have been reckless.
Oh, it would have been terrible. Absolutely. Now, what I will say is that, all right, let me talk about who we played. We started again, Utku Yuvakuran and the goal, fine. On the back line, we saw Erdoğan Kaya and Necip as our starting central defenders. Kerem Kalafat on the right side and Robosho on the left. Erdem Seçkin and Ozan in the center of our midfield. And then Tyler Boyd, Jermaine Lenz on the wings. Guven Yalçın starting behind, Umut Nair. Now, all in all, I get the defense that you were kind of already starting to launch. But for me, the concentration of young guys in the same part of the pitch, it's not so much having that many guys out there that are young. I feel like we could have had maybe one or two less than we did without putting out guys like who, we need to be resting or whatever. But that back line of Lobosho, Erdoğan Kaya, Necip, Kerem Kalafat, and then with Erdem Seçkin being the kind of more defensive of the central midfielders. For me, that was putting too much pressure on those young guys against a Wolverhampton side that they didn't really take a break on us. They didn't cut us any slack.
Yeah, they rotated a couple of starters out, but they started with a pretty strong lineup. They were missing Raul Jimenez due to suspension.
João Moutinho was tearing those guys.
Yeah, they had João Moutinho on there. They had Ruben Neves on there.
It was almost
so
surreal,
they had a decent...
like for someone our age who saw a guy like João Moutinho being a kind of prominent, almost star potential guy with the Portuguese national side when we were younger, to see a guy like that with that kind of reputation internationally against like Erdem Seçkin, for me was like, what is going on? This is so surreal.
But you, I think that honestly, I mean, when I looked at their lineup, I was like, we're gonna really struggle in midfield. And quite frankly, I thought in the first half we really didn't.
No,
it wasn't
was
until
Diego. We were
it
solid.
wasn't until Diogo Jota came on and making those penetrating runs that we really got into trouble. Because in the first half, honestly, apart from an offside position for them where they scored, but it was clearly offside, they didn't really do that much, and I was kind of happy with the performance, but I wholeheartedly disagree with what you're saying, though.
I expect
no, but the reason I am disagreeing is because I can't think of a single player that I'd put in those positions that you're mentioning right now, because you don't want to risk
problem is
Atiba.
Douglas is still out.
Douglas is still out, so you didn't have an alternative on right
damn.
back. The only option you have there is Gökhan or Necip. Gökhan, you're not
Victor
going to want to
Ruiz
play.
is out.
Because, so let's
So you
look
have
at
to
the
rest
positions
Enzo
one by
Rocco.
one.
Damn. Okay.
The only position that Rocco's had unfortunate injuries in the last 2 years too, where it came to a point where we were going to take him to another injury, and then he got injured. So you don't want to play Enzo Rocco. Definitely, I mean, we ended up playing him as a sub, but you don't want to start him, risk him for an injury. I don't think he should have come on as a sub either, by the way. You're definitely not going to risk Gökhan Gönül. He's been playing for the last, 8 years of his career very frequently with injections. You're not going to, this is a throwaway match. People need to understand. I've seen a lot of opinions on this, of people that whose opinions I respect, and they're criticizing these choices too. And I think their pride is hurt a little, and they're putting a little bit too much stock in that.
My thing is, I feel I'm with you insofar as this game did not matter at all. I don't care at all about the result. My only thing about playing young guys is that there's a certain point where if you set them up for failure, you're kind of hurting their development as well. It doesn't benefit them to be out there.
Are you setting them up for failure, though? I mean, I think they showed really good. I mean, I think as a team, they showed a decent thing in the first half.
Let me just quickly add, though, that I had not recognized the extent to which we didn't really have any other choices back there. Because now I'm thinking in the center of our midfield, right? We had Ozan, good, right? Because you don't want to risk the guys who were regularly playing El Neni.
You had to put
Atiba.
You had to put some experience in there, so the obvious choice is Ozan.
Yeah.
The only choice.
And then besides that, okay, so fine. What if you want to put Necip there? But then who do you play in the center of the? I forgot that with Victor Ruiz out, we need Enzo Rocco for our league match, and so then that means that we don't even have. I mean, in a sense, I'm glad that Necip is the expendable one. So that means at least Enzo Rocco is in the plans.
We have 3 league games left before the end of the year.
Very important ones, as we've talked about.
2 home games, potential 9 points.
See, I didn't realize the extent to which we were still so ravaged by injuries.
I think Douglas that's what most
people. So annoying because he would be the obvious. This is the obvious game, and including the domestic cup where he can finally get his feet wet and. That sucks. That's an annoying injury.
And I think that's kind of something people are I think people are looking at it this way. I think if you're not injured, you can play. But do you want to risk Domagoj Vida, who is probably your most important player at the back? Including Karius. You don't want to risk Karius. I mean, obviously Karius. I mean, if this was a match that we could still qualify, obviously you're gonna want to play those guys. But we were playing for poker chips.
Not even. We're playing for.
We weren't playing for pride. For absolutely nothing.
For our feelings. We're playing for our feelings. No, okay.
Karius is not someone who's gonna get injured quickly, but you don't want to risk it, right? You can have a freak accident in training, sure, but at least this is a risk you cannot take.
My thinking was that we had. Rather than sort of the C team that we saw, that we had these B team guys that needed to be playing. But now that I'm being reminded that that these guys are injured, it really complicates. No, I actually, in this regard, I think it's very important that we not care about this match. And what I was going to say, kind of to round up my feelings about the whole thing, is that despite the less than ideal development pattern here, or like I said, maybe these kids being set up for failure, it doesn't really seem like we had any other options, and I'd rather these kids be set up for failure once than the whole team be imperiled, the whole season imperiled by someone getting injured that we need in these far more important games.
Say you've put out let's say you play not both Atiba and Neni, but you play one of them.
No,
you start one of them.
I wouldn't.
And then let's say
Let's
say you start Enzo Rocco. You rest Domagoj Vida, but you start Enzo Rocco. You start El Neni, and you start. Obviously you're gonna start with Umut. Let's say you start Erdem, El Neni, and then you put Ozan on the 10, and you put Umut up top. You leave Güven in the trash can where he belongs. You put Boyd and Lenz on. You
Maybe
put
even Diaby
Bocho on.
behind.
You put Rocco. You put Rocco, you put Erdogan, and then you put like Necip on the right back, or you still play Kerem on the right back, and you put Necip in the center of midfield, and then you put Karius in goal. Huh? Let's see, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But to what point? What's the point? I mean, except for, I mean, are you realistically going to have a much bigger chance at winning this match?
Actually, I'll tell you why it's
because
stupid.
I think
It's not just stupid in terms of these guys getting injured. It's also stupid because like these guys could get cards and then have suspensions in going into next year's European competitions for no reason. Like whatever the hell it is. There's so many reasons not to play them. No, okay.
It just takes one of those guys that I just mentioned that you could have put in, and just one of those guys to take a bad bump coming down from an aerial duel and straining his ankle. It just
Even
takes
a little
one of them
like
guys
knick-knack
to
injury that puts him out for a few days and then he can't play this coming match against Yeni Malatya. So even something like
Malatya
that is
isn't
so much more important than
Malatya is not to be underestimated. Then we have
Wolverhampton.
Fenerbahce right after that, and then after that we have Gençlerbirliği at home. So it's like these three matches are so much more important. We are currently on 27 points. We have the potential of ending the first half of the season with 36 points. Now the chances of that are not very high. We still have an away game at Fenerbahce. We need to be realistic. Our chances, the likelihood of us winning there aren't very high, but you never know. But you don't want to put a bomb under these matches. We've had enough injury issues this season.
You know what people care about too much? They care about other dumb people's opinions that they don't know. And like what I sense is that people are more worried about having to defend themselves against trolls on the internet who are like, oh, Beşiktaş couldn't even beat Wolverhampton. Even Wolverhampton beat them 4-0. You think you could compete with and like just do the 10 seconds of intellectual work required and reply with a screenshot of the formation we put out there and explain that this is our C team if it matters to you that much. Or
you don't even need
just
to
ignore them because who cares?
Those people's opinions don't matter. Whether we end the group stages with 3 points or with 4 points or with 6 points, it really doesn't matter. The purse, the winner's purse of winning a match in the Europa League is not significant enough either to justify risking any key player injury.
If it was the difference between us qualifying for the next stage, fine, but it's clearly not.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if we still had an opportunity, a chance, even if it was a small chance to qualify, then it's different. And it's kind of been the same thing. Like I saw something earlier. I seen some people make remarks like, Abdullah, like mainly because of this, because Beşiktaş somehow managed to qualify for the next round of the Europa League by getting a stoppage time winner in Germany against Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is phenomenal, of course, and they managed to qualify as group winners for the round of 32 for the first time in history. They managed to go in beyond January in Europe, and obviously, Abdullah Avcı.
I was going to say the irony, of course, is that the 1 year that Abdullah Avcı's not there is the 1 year they not just win a match, but like actually succeed. That's almost embarrassing.
So of course people are immediately jumping on, Avcı is just doing what he did at Beşiktaş. Now he's doing it at Beşiktaş. He's sacrificing their European campaign for the league, for the domestic campaign, and you could look at it that way, and it's definitely true. But
it's different. This team is establishing itself. There's moving parts in and out, injuries. There's next season, significant differences. We can apply that lens to him next season once he's got enough parts in place going into the year.
Yeah, I mean, you need to keep in mind where we were in those first few weeks of the season. How many players we were missing due to
Güven had to play up front because Burak was out and Ljajic was out, so we had other there was no plan.
We lost our opening match away at Bratislava. He did some rotating there. Yeah, he rotated in Rebocho and he rotated in Douglas, which I think at the time when you saw the lineup, nobody thought that was him throwing in the towel. It's not like he was playing youth players then.
That's when you're supposed to play
putting in
those
players.
guys, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's against an opponent we should have been beating, but we lost that match due to certain, referee
screwed,
decisions,
man.
whatever.
No, man, like, obviously, we can say this now, in retrospect, having come out on the other end relatively unscathed. Obviously, the European thing was a bit of a blow to our egos collectively, but when we look back at this first half of a season in charge of Beşiktaş, and all the complicating factors, the injuries, all the new players coming in, like loan guys, and
you always have new players coming in, but we had exceptional
like
amount of
it wasn't
early
just,
on in the season.
And not only did we have like 6 new guys coming in, but a good chunk of the back line is new, and that's like where communication is so vital, and familiarity especially. Like, come on, no, we've had, and not just new, but rotating because of injury. Victor Ruiz being in and out. Enzo Rocco is basically a new player. I mean, if we think about his actual playing time with the club and playing with these guys.
Definitely.
So, I think with all these factors in place, and Abdullah Avci has actually done fairly well, big picture. And it's hard to say that given where we were, maybe a month ago.
He was in a very difficult position in the early weeks of the season, because I'm going to reiterate this, but we missed Laic missed the entire training camp. Burak Yilmaz missed the entire training camp. Then we had Atiba, who missed basically the entire training camp, didn't get to full fitness until a couple of weeks into the season, and he's turned out to be really important. Then we had El Neni joining late, plus then getting that suspension, the 3-match suspension for that red card against Gaziantep early in the season. We had Nkudu joining the team late, Diaby joining the team. Yeah, Diaby joining the team late.
In both cases, it's crazy.
And then. Yeah, and this is
Tyler Boyd
for
coming in, getting injured after a fantastic summer as well. Like, remember the concussion?
He got that concussion. But okay, so this is important to take away from our European group stage draw was Braga and Wolverhampton. It was a tough draw. We had to take 6 points against Slovan Bratislava to have a chance to qualify. That is simply the truth.
So to come out
that
on
is
game
look.
one and lose.
Why did Başakşehir qualify for the next round of the Europa League? Because they beat the small team in their group twice. They won twice against Wolfsburger, and Wolfsburger are not a poor side because they did well. They beat Borussia Mönchengladbach, and they took a point. And they took a point from AS Roma, so they're not a pushover by any means.
Can I just make a sad point? Austria is passing Turkey in coefficient this year, which is terrible news. But ironically, Başakşehir is the only one who put up a fight for us, apparently.
Yeah, but to my point, we had to take 6 points against Slovan Bratislava. So after we lost that opener, our chances of qualifying. Our chances of qualifying for the next round became a lot smaller.
And that was all the refs, if you recall. That was a terrible ref performance.
It was a terrible ref, but you also need to keep in mind that Loris Karius should have gotten sent off early on in that match. So it wasn't all against us. So that's just the circumstances. We didn't have Burak, which is important. We missed a lot of players early in the season against Slovan Bratislava too. I think, things could have been different there. But then we also had to put out, because I think we played Braga around the same time that we played Braga at home around the same time that we played Galatasaray, I think. And remember against Galatasaray going into that derby how limited we were with the injuries. We had to put out a B team against Galatasaray in the derby, and somehow we managed to win that.
That was a turning point. I mean, that or the Alanya match. We had a few key performances and key moments that really spurred this run.
Definitely. But I think people forget now they're criticizing and saying, look, I've deliberately threw the Europa League campaign. But I don't think that's not true at all, because you have to keep in mind the players he missed in that period of time. Also, he was missing those players at that period of time in the league. And then he finally had guys like Burak Yilmaz coming back from injury, clearly not being 100% fit yet. After, I think, the Alanya match.
No, I see the Europa League as the kind of sacrificial sacrificial lamb, not by design, not by intention.
He had to rest Burak after the Alanya match.
course.
I think it was after the Alanya. He had to rest him.
Yeah.
He could not risk him re-aggravating his injury and being out for X more weeks.
No, I
and let's
can't
not
argue with
forget,
any of
because
that.
Burak came back from his injury at the start of a training camp, and then he re-aggravated his injury, and that's why he was out for 3 months, because he
We've rushed
came
him back,
too
yeah,
early.
exactly.
So we couldn't risk that in the Europa League
And
matches.
technically, like, if we're going to be honest, we
Simply
probably kind of rushed him back in general throughout the season, even this last bit of, I think that's why it's taken so long for him to find his form. Hopefully he's really found it. He has found the back of the net a couple times now, so
didn't look like it.
no,
against
yeah.
Kasimpaşa.
Well, again, I think this is a perfect segue, because we really should now really put Europe behind us. It was so inconsequential this year. It was the sacrificial lamb, not by design, but just, insofar as that's the best we could put out. Again, we literally
like
had a
you
CC,
said,
and that's fine.
and like you said, if next season Abdullah Avcı ends up sacrificing Europe and like clearly doing that, then you can criticize him. I think this season you simply can, because of course, it's perfectly possible that next season, early in the season, we have a ton of injuries again. But let's knock on wood and hope that doesn't happen. If we don't have like a massive injury list of key players and whatever, or players that are just coming back from injury, that can't handle 2 games a week yet, if we don't have that, and then he still sacrifices Europe, then you can justifiably criticize him all you want, but doing it now is not fair.
Not fair.
Simple. And I'm not this far I'm not convinced yet of Abdullah Avcı, to be honest. But he has done an okay job, and I didn't think at all it was possible for him to get the train back on tracks, and we spoke about that even a couple of weeks ago, just like before we went on this amazing winning streak of 6 matches. We said, well, he's up until January, but the story for him is over, it's already ended, blah blah blah. We said that. And he's turned things around, and I didn't think he was going to be able to do it. Okan Buruk did the same thing at Başakşehir, but the circumstances there obviously are very different in terms of pressure. So kudos to Abdullah Avcı for being able to do that. Poor substitution policies or not. Kudos to him.
Well,
but
and,
of course,
and the important, and again, I think with all that sort of bad stuff out there with the Europa League, let's get back on track to the good news, because the real headliner for this episode, and I think the talking point that we should focus on, is Beşiktaş played on the road a Sunday evening at the Recep Tayyip Erdoğan Stadium in Istanbul against Kasimpaşa. As has already been said earlier in the episode, Beşiktaş had not gotten a result there since 2014. So quite a drought. And again, Abdullah Avcı getting the job done. I guess let's do this one more carefully. So we'll talk about the lineup as always. And so here we again had our normal starting lineup with Loris Karius, Domagoj Vida, and Enzo Rocco on the back line. Lobosho got the start with Gökhan Gönül on the right. Atiba and El Neni, of course. Diaby on the wing opposite Caner, with Adem Ljajic playing behind Burak Yilmaz. That random.
Obviously, Nkudu got injured against Erzincan, so that's why Caner started on the wing.
Just, what was it, like a 2-week injury? That originally it seemed like it was worse, but I think it's been downgraded. So I'll be back.
I don't know.
Soon,
I think it's a hamstring injury, so it could be worse than you expect. So I don't know. Let's hope he's back before. I think we because like this weekend we could definitely use him against Malatya, but it's a home game. So I think we don't need him desperately. But away at Fenerbahce, that's where you need that explosive Nkudu.
At the least off the bench, but hopefully even for a full match. But so I mean, no shocks in this lineup. Diaby and Caner on the wings, perhaps a little bit not so ideal.
With Nkudu's injury, that's what that's no shock.
Yeah.
He's going to start Caner.
We do know that. We totally know that. I mean, especially, the nice thing, I guess, is that he has enough faith in Lobosho to play him on the back and slide Caner forward. Because I think Lobosho's earned that. He's had a rough outing in with this Wolverhampton match, but that's so unfair. We talked about the quality of that back line. He was one of the only regular players out there. You can't put anything on him, I don't think. Even if you can, you shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, so that was the lineup we had going into this match. Shall we just get into the timeline here? In the 15th minute, I guess we'll do a brief one. The 15th minute, Karim Hafez got himself a red card. And so Beşiktaş had an advantage. And that was very helpful. And I think we talked about how hard getting results here have been. So that certainly alleviated the pressure right from the get-go.
You think. Right?
But yeah, just 9 minutes later, the first goal to be scored would be scored by who else but Mustafa Pekdemek. 24th minute, Kasimpaşa has a 1-0 lead. What are you thinking at this point, Kaan? Is your heart palpitating? Are you surviving this?
I think my thinking was at the time, my mindset is like, not again. It's gonna go wrong here again. It's always this, it's always here. We always stumble away at Kasimpaşa. Despite how successful Şenol Güneş was as a Beşiktaş coach in his first 2 years, and ultimately in the 4 seasons he was our coach, he never won away at Kasimpaşa. I think that says something. And obviously for Kasimpaşa, for those of you who don't know, I think most of you will know, but for Kasimpaşa, they are actually led by the club. Their board consists out of a lot of former Beşiktaş club members, some board members who are disgruntled, who left the club after I believe Fikret Orman came in, and they went and basically pumped a bunch of funds in Kasimpaşa. And remember in the early 2010s when Kasimpaşa had a really fun side with Ryan Donk, Ryan Babel, Scarione, all those players that you think would be definitely Babel, especially like a player that you think would be out of their financial means, but somehow they managed to sign those guys. And they've had a hard on for Beşiktaş, and I honestly, I am 100, not 100, I'm like 99.9% certain that for every home game against Beşiktaş, they offer their players like stupid bonuses if they get something from that match. I'm certain of that, because it's their Champions League final. That's like Bursaspor's home games against us. Like, it's very important for them. That's like their derby. That's like their Beşiktaş Galatasaray, their Beşiktaş Fenerbahçe. You know how important that is. They wish. They want to put a stick in our wheel, and they've done a really good job at that for the past couple of years. I mean, they are our black sheep.
I'm curious. So now the stadium is named after Erdogan because this is the neighborhood that he was born in and grew up in, right? But he was actually
I think he's from Rize, isn't he? Isn't he from Rize?
I thought he was a Trabzonspor fan.
No, he's a Rize. No, he's He's a Fenerbahçe fan, but he's from Rize, I believe.
Oh man, this is complicated. Let's not touch this. I'm not touching Turkish politics with a 10-foot stick.
That's not.
But so anyway, that was a tough start to the match for sure. And of course, seeing Pekdemek score the goal made it all the harder. But it would take a little while, actually. But 15 minutes would pass, and in the 39th minute, Caner Erkin would equalize and at least calm us down, take us off the ledge momentarily.
Yeah, then you think, okay, we're a man up. We've got the equalizer just before halftime. All is good. We're going to go up and over these guys. Second half, no problem.
What were your thoughts on the goal?
That's how I went into the halftime.
Do you remember Caner's goal?
I think it was lucky. I think it went through at least one pair of legs, and it was like, it was lucky. I think that was the type of, that you need to get back into it quickly, and that's what we needed. And I don't care if it's a pretty goal or not. One of those
goals, like that's how it's gonna, that's how it is on a championship run. You're gonna get those dirty goals, not dirty against the rules, but dirty,
messy.
Messy.
Let's call them messy.
Yeah. And not Messi like
Lionel Messi.
Lionel, but yeah, the other Messi,
Not
like
Leo
the bad
Messi.
kind.
Like a teenager's room.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, going into the half, Beşiktaş looks like they're doing. We're on the uptick anyway. At least we're in the match. We're not losing or anything like that. It's 1-1. Burak Yılmaz gets a stupid yellow card going into the half.
Yeah.
Just dumb, but whatever. But everything seems fine at this stage. And then once again, things would get thrown into disarray. And as the second half begins, in the 56th minute, beautiful assist from Hajdinovic, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And Koita puts it away. Also a tidy little finish. And Kasimpaşa has the lead again, despite being a man down.
Yeah.
It looks bad, doesn't it? At this point, I think we're all in panic mode.
At this point, I think we're like, oh my god, I can't believe we're gonna lose points. I wasn't at the. I still thought we're gonna get the equalizer probably, like in the 84th minute or something stupid, way too late, and we'll get the point. But this is a match you always have to win, given the circumstances where they're down to 10 men after just 50 minutes. You can't. There's no excuse for not winning this match.
And so then, he gets a yellow, and then Diaby comes out of the match for Umut Nair. So we switch to the 4-4-2. I'm going to be honest, though. At this point, I'm feeling so angry. My main criticism of Abdul Avcılar's subs. I don't think Diaby should be coming out. I get it with the 4-4-2, but like really, with Umut Nair, he's going to save us. I am so skeptical.
Well, it's the option you have. It's the only option you have. So putting Umut in is he had to do
and I
that,
say this jokingly because, of course,
taking off Diaby,
just 10 minutes, or I guess technically 11 minutes later, who but Umut Nair would score the equalizer and Gökhan Günal with the assist. And yeah, there it is, 2-2. A nice little goal too, actually. Umut has a way of. I want to say he's no more than a third striker, but sometimes I feel like maybe he's a second striker. I don't know. I mean, maybe not for Beşiktaş.
Well, right now he is, but he's not. He's
he
not.
Shouldn't be. No, but I mean. He shows these flashes where I almost wish we'd found him younger. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. It is what it is.
Well, the thing with Umut is he got a little bit of a special story because he's one of those guys that actually has a really good education. He's a lawyer. He wanted to finish his studies. That's also why he played in the second division for as long as he did, because he was busy with his. Yeah, and plus then, he did well in the second division for a couple of clubs, but then never really got a shot in the first division despite Osmanlıspor snapping him up, but they just kept loaning him out. Anyway, yeah.
But so, yeah, nice little finish. Gökhan Günal, tidy little assist. Yeah, 71st minute. Still, I think we have plenty to worry about because, as you say, we need to win. This is scary.
Yeah, that felt like okay, we got the point, and that's all we're gonna get. We've got the point now. We'll probably create a couple of chances, but we'll miss them.
Exactly. And so then, in the 72nd minute, right after the goal scored, Jermaine Lens comes in for Hlebosho, and like again, I get it. Like you want to be more attacking, but I'm skeptical as to how that is that the move. I'm, not inclined to think so, honestly. But whatever. I was like, Jermaine Lens, I mean...
It's the next one I took issue with.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? How does that make sense?
And
again, like, we
sub.
would be made to look stupid for being critical, but I'll get there. Because first, I took a little heart from this, that Mustafa Pekdemek came out of the match in the 76th minute for İlhan Dipe, and I just felt like Pekdemek was going to score against us and kill us. Like, just for all the...
You almost did that, too.
I know, and like, for all the crap we've talked over the years, it was like, in the cards, But they took him out. Also, Quaresma came out in the 88th minute. So all of the potential sort of revenge goals were taken off the table for them.
Yeah, but he played his match, and he was essential in their second goal because he gave the splitting pass, sending Hajradinovic down the left.
Yeah.
He definitely he put it in his performance. He gave it his all. But the thing with Quaresma, I don't resent him for giving 100%. I mean, I don't resent Mustafa Bektemek for giving 100% either. But the difference for me is like Quaresma did so much for the club, and obviously he did negative stuff too. But he also did a lot of important stuff. He's done it. But the thing with Bektemek that I would have taken exception with is this guy lined his pockets for the last 4 years. He never has to, his family.
He's gonna die rich because of Beşiktaş.
His grandchildren won't have to work a single day in their lives because of the money he made at Beşiktaş. And he did nothing in exchange for it, basically, pretty much. So if we would have ended up losing this match because of a goal of his,
I would honest, I don't feel like his celebration was discreet enough when he scored. I didn't.
He didn't get to celebrate pretty much because it took so long for them to give the goal
after he
to
scored
VAR.
Immediately, he kind of punched his fists in. It wasn't for me the classiest goal scored against us by a former player was Ömer Şişmanoğlu, because there wasn't even a yes. Immediately his hands went to his sides, and he was like.
The thing with that, what you need to keep in mind, I think, is Ömer still, thought the door was kind of on a little bit of an opening that he could come back one day. Mustafa knows he's never gonna come back. Plus, I think he was respectful. I'm taking it. I'm nitpicking, because it was not a huge celebration by any means. I just still I feel like I would have been
the Ömer Şişmanoğlu for me has established a high standard.
But we didn't get to see what Mustafa Bektemek's celebration would have really been like, because they immediately ruled it off for offside. As soon as the ball hit the net, it got called offside. So he didn't get the chance to go all out. So I would have been interested in seeing in if it didn't get ruled offside, what his reaction would have been. I would have been interested in seeing that, but we never got to see
it.
Anyway,
in the 5th minute of extra time, 90+5, the man who I was so critical of coming into the match, Germain Lenz, sets up a beautiful goal. Again, Umut Nayar on the other end of it, in the right place at the right time. So some credit to him, but really Germain Lenz made this goal. Just dodging around the touchline,
but it was literally the only thing he did in 20 minutes.
So I felt like I was totally correct in criticizing the sub until he did this, and then I was like, oh, gotta put my foot in my mouth for the second time today. But yes, so Germain Lenz, just a beautiful setup too, though. He willed, he wanted Beşiktaş to win. You had that feeling. And then post match, he gave a humble interview where he said he knows he hasn't been good enough. I feel like he's.
Yeah.
I've never been anti Germain Lenz, and I've never appreciated those who are, because I don't know. He wants to be good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's been a disappointing transfer. Let's be honest. But I also think that the deck has been stacked against him in his first, definitely his first season, and
his settling early. And then once you're not established and you're into your second season with the team, it's hard to, you don't have the fervor and excitement. The fans aren't behind you because you're a new signing or anything. So you lose that edge.
Yeah. Plus now he's 2 years older. He's 32 years old now. He's starting. I mean, obviously he's gonna start at this point. He's gonna start showing some signs of slowing down. I think when we signed him, he was still prime. Sure. Prime.
Yeah, relatively.
I think he was still prime when we signed him, and I think this was when we had to capitalize on what his potential was, and we just didn't.
Another tragedy.
But good interview. He basically said, I've been getting a lot of criticism, and I think they're right. The people who are criticizing me is what he literally said. I think they're right because he said, I know what I'm capable of, and I simply haven't shown that since I arrived at Beşiktaş. So he was very, very sober and hard on himself.
Full credit.
And but I also kind of like the fact that Abdullah Avci gave him the captain's armband against Wolverhampton, and I think. He against the Erzincan, he got the captain's armband too. So I do think that Abdullah Avci is definitely being a little bit more.
much?
A little bit, but then I kind of wonder, like, look, you're doing that for a 32-year-old, but why aren't you doing it for Tyler Boyd?
Misplaced.
You know,
No, I mean, yeah, whatever. It doesn't mean it's not good. It's just it should also be, others. So let me talk stats here. So for what this match, let's see how this reflects on the match we saw and if it jives. So Beşiktaş had 19 shots to Kasimpaşa's 12, but only 7 on target to their 6. So that was closer. However, Beşiktaş really dominated possession, 67-33, despite being up for much of the match. I mean, we were behind as well, so I think that would have gone either way. But passes, 565 completed by Beşiktaş to only 294 by Kasimpaşa. 86% accuracy by Beşiktaş to their 72. 12 fouls committed by Beşiktaş to their 10. So it was a pretty rough game. And 5 cards given to Beşiktaş players. 3 given to Kasimpaşa. Obviously 1 red card to call him Hafiz.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What did you think of that red card? Did you think that was?
I thought it was merited.
Correct
I thought
call?
it was merited. I do. Like the whole last man thing is still relevant, but I also feel that he made too much of a show of like raising his leg and his arm after the contact, which kind of goes beyond fouling. Like you're kind of endangering a player at that point. Tripping a guy in the air and taking his legs out. So it's not like the obvious red. Obviously, Atiba sort of flares out and almost oversells it. But yeah,
I think what Atiba is doing is trying to avoid injury by jumping over him.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Atiba is not the type to flop, so
I don't think so. Yeah,
I think. I think that for me, like, when being a little bit empathical, I think that Atiba doesn't get to that ball anymore. He plays it out too far in front of him. So for me, a yellow card would have been okay. But by letter of the law, this is 100% a red card, because as they also, I spoke about this on the Football Turka podcast too, like they spoke about this on Marathon, and Metin Tekin, our legend, he basically had the same opinion as I, like, look, Atiba is not going to get to that ball anymore. But the Kun Tekin and I very correctly pointed out, look, the rule does not take into account how quick a player is. Because if that's Nkudu,
he does get to it, absolutely.
If that's included, then people would probably say, okay, that's a red card. But because it's Atiba and he's not that fast, people are like, he's not gonna get to the ball. Should be a yellow card.
But once you start doing that,
Yeah.
What are you like? Are you calculating someone's average speed?
Exactly. That's what Guntekin and I said. Look, the referee cannot look at which player is being fouled, because that does not matter. That is not part of the rule. So the red card is absolutely a correct decision. However,
ultimately, what you're looking at is Kalim Hafez's intent. I think you're supposed to look at his intent, because all the other stuff is sort of secondary, and like it's clear he's just trying to do everything he can to stop. Yeah. It looks like a one-on-one.
Look, exactly. I think Karim Hafez, I don't think he's intending to hurt Atiba, but definitely his intention is 100%. Look, I missed this ball, but I'm still gonna try and clip the man, just to make sure that he doesn't go one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So in that regard, you've kind of swayed me a little bit in the sense that, look, the red card there was definitely deserved. But I think there was also, I mean, something we didn't talk about yet is Koita. That's another one that should have gotten the red card. And I think if Hafez doesn't get a red, then Koita is ejected.
Probably
does.
Yeah,
I mean, Koita gets a yellow for basically, an aerial duel with Vida, where he basically, hits him in the face a little bit, which these days is a yellow. All these days, but referees are told, look,
generally, now that we can like look at things more carefully.
So he gets that yellow, and then a little bit later, he's called offside, and he kicks the ball away, which we all know that's supposed to be a yellow. Now, for me personally, I'm like, those guys are already down to 10 men. You're not gonna send them off for that. But then in the second half, like 2 or 3 minutes before he scores, he hits Gökhan Gönül in the face.
Yeah.
And that, to me, he should be off right there. And then obviously, like it's written in the sky, written in the stars, 2 minutes later, he's the one that ends up scoring. So for me, I mean, Kasimpaşa should have been down to 9 men in like the 52nd minute, and I think that the referee, despite giving that early red, I thought it was pretty bad. And then I think a lot of those, I don't know, I didn't like his officiating of the match for the rest of the match, and not that he did like anything blatant. It's just little things, but maybe also he did that because how that red card maybe impacted him. Maybe he got you have to keep in mind these referees are human beings, and they
exactly.
know,
so they're not machines.
Yeah, they know I gave a red card in the 15th minute. I'm gonna get the colored media on my ass.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then it kind of, in the back of their head, maybe they're being a little bit more lenient forward into the match. And I think we also should point out that El Neni, I think, could have gotten an earlier yellow, and then because
the second one would have been he got a yellow. Yeah,
he had a couple of positions where he could have gotten I think he had like 3 or 4 positions where he could have potentially gotten a yellow card. So when he still had,
bad day for the ref. We can definitely agree.
No, but I just want to point out it's not just Koita that could have seen 2 yellows, but he definitely should have. But El Neni, sure. I think if he gets a yellow earlier, he plays more cautious, but you never know.
Yeah, for sure.
Koita clearly didn't when he got the first yellow. He didn't start playing more cautiously. He kept, he flirted with reds twice.
And I think that he
really,
I think you can kind of play with the ref when you've been given that early red, because you know that you're going to have that.
Yeah, but do you risk that for kicking a ball?
You shouldn't.
What's the point of kicking a ball away? And what's the point of hitting Gökhan in the face there? What are you gaining?
No, it was stupid. It's not smart.
I mean, if it's a fall to break down an attack, that's a different thing. Then I get it. And then, don't waste your yellows on stupid stuff like Burak did. Why is he?
Exactly.
He already won the aerial, he won the ball, and then he throws his arm back in the guy's face. Why? Maybe it's not on purpose, I don't know, but it's so stupid to take a yellow.
It looked pretty dumb. It looked pretty, not on purpose, but like careless.
Yeah, and now if he gets a yellow against Malatya, he's going to miss the derby, so that was a stupid-ass yellow.
Yeah, it really was. Well, so let's talk about where that leaves us in the table going into this Malatya match. So now Beşiktaş, we're finally starting to see these results, come out into the table, and so Beşiktaş is in second place alone. So yeah, Beşiktaş is just 3 points back on Sivas. Behind us, though, there's some traffic. Trabzonspor and Başakşehir. Başakşehir is probably hot right now, but they're just 1 point back with 26. Fener has 25, and then Alanya and Galatasaray each have 23, and that brings us all the way down to 7th place. So 7th place is just 4 points back, and then Yeni Malatya has 20 points, so they're 7 points back on us in 8th place. They had started out hot. They've obviously simmered down a bit. But that's the table going into this week's match. Now quickly, I should mention that this week's match is going to be a kind of earlier match on Sunday. So that's December 15th in New York. That's 11 a.m., which I think means 5 p.m. for you, Kaan. Is that correct?
Yeah, it should be. I think it's I could quickly check, but yeah, that should be correct. Doesn't matter anyway. People have
check your local
internet.
Listings. Yeah, check your listings.
So they have the internet.
Yeah, you hope.
The internet.
You'd hope they do. Otherwise, they're not listening to our podcast, I guess. But yeah, all in all, there's a lot on the line here. We're at home against Yeni Malatya. Hopefully, Burak is in form and not looking to get another yellow card, because that would be a huge tragedy.
Imagine having to go to Kadıköy with Umut as your lone striker, basically.
So Kaan, give us a bit of a preview here. What do you expect out of this match? What are you thinking about it before we log out for the episode? Well,
obviously it's a quality. It's one of the better sides in the league for sure that we're facing. But we're at home. We have 2 home games left, Malatya and Engençlerli. I think if we want to seriously contend for the title, we need to take 6 points from those 2 matches, and then anything we take in Kadıköy is a bonus. Preferably we don't lose. but we haven't won there since 2004, so we need to be realistic too. Also, you need to be realistic in the sense that they've been pretty good at home at times. Obviously, they lost a couple of weeks ago to Antalyaspor at home, 1-0, but they've also had some really impressive showings at home recently. Just last weekend, they got a 5-2 win against Derby. Plus, I mean, it's a derby, so you don't know what's going to happen there. But this Malatya match, it's definitely a tough opponent, but it's just a match we have to win simply. It's very important. It's more important, I think, that we just win these 2 home games, and then whatever happens in the derby happens. But even you have to keep in mind, so we play on Sunday, right? The late game basically on Sunday. So in the early afternoon, Sivasspor, the league leaders, are actually hosting Fenerbahce. So either Sivasspor or Fenerbahce or both are going to drop points.
Nice.
So we need to win. We're also going to know what that result of that match is already going into the Malatya game. So we have no excuse. We have to win that match. And then it's all and then hopefully we don't get any suspension. But we only have Burak Yilmaz, who risks a suspension by yellow card. So obviously there's possibilities for red cards, but let's hope that doesn't happen. So we only have Burak Yilmaz at risk for a yellow card. We have a couple of, like Victor Ruiz is also at risk, but obviously he's injured, so he won't be playing.
Yeah, not till.
Although he's back in training, I believe, so it could be back for the derby, but we don't know. But yeah, so Burak
certainly, if it's possible, we should definitely rest them this week.
But also important, so Fenerbahce are away at Sivas. They're very difficult. Obviously, Sivas are the informed team right now alongside us. They also have 6 wins in a row, just like us. And Fener actually have a couple of players who are at risk for suspension. So Vedat Muric, they're, I think, most important player. Emre Belozolo is at risk for a yellow card suspension. I think Luis Gustavo as well, and Ferder Aziz. So they have 4 players that are pretty key to them. And they got our good friend Ali Palabi as referee. So probably none of them will get a yellow, but...
yeah, so I was going to say, he's like their favorite person. Well, so I mean, it's going to be an exciting week one way or another, whether it's in our match or in another match. But I'm eagerly anticipating it. It'll be good.
Let's just hope this whole Wolverhampton thing didn't kickstart a terrible December. But
right.
Just 3 more games are left for us. Obviously, there's also the Cup game, but I'm just glossing past that right now. There's 3 games left in the league right now, and you know what? I mean, 6 or more points of that is going to set us up for a really good opportunity at the title in the second half of the season. That's the truth, because we're just in a really good position if we get 6 points in our next 9 games. Oh, preferably
I think we need
7,
to get
least,
these 6 points at least. I mean,
these
6 points are vital. And what that means is that if we drop any points against Yeni Malatya, we have to make it up against Fener 100%. But puts pressure on that result.
We have to keep looking at it match by match. So the first one, we cannot afford to be looking at the Fenerbahce match already, which we are kind of already doing here, if we have to be honest. But the team cannot afford to do that. The team has to concentrate 100% on Malatyaspor. And I mean, the only player who has to be very conscious about not taking a yellow card is Burak, and let's hope that he has the experience and the discipline to do so, and at the same time still hopefully bang in a couple of goals to get us 3 points.
Yeah, on a production note, I'm glad we got to do this on a Friday, so we're back to our routine, and it's good timing. We'll be back next week, obviously, to talk about this big match against Yeni Malatya that's upcoming. As well as we'll obviously have the Erzincan, the second leg to talk about, which I don't anticipate much drama in that regard. But so we'll have some more to talk about, of course. And we'll be previewing the big Fenerbahce derby. Any closing notes, Kaan, before we put an end to this episode?
No,
95.
I just so we're gonna close out the year at 97, I guess, or 98. But no, I just hope that with these 3 league games remaining, that we just we're on a fantastic run right now. It's a shame we didn't beat Ankara Gücü, but we're on such a good run right now. I hope we can just continue it a little bit longer. Just 3 more weeks. We can just hold on, so to speak, and then go into the winter break. Hopefully get 2 signings, but this is something we haven't talked about. But of course, Ahmet Nuhçebi, our new president, has talked about this, that there's some, the financial state of the club is really bad right now. So there's some potential looming transfer ban from the TFF and potential looming European bans. What he talked about, that these are possibilities right now. He's not saying they're definitely coming, but he did say that they are possibilities. So I just hope that he managed to stave that off. I just hope it's kind of a ploy where he's like, "Oh, we didn't get a transfer ban because we did such a good job," and
he's playing the hero card. Hopefully,
I just hope that's what I just hope that's what he's doing. But anyway, I just hope we can. I think we need in January. I think if we can get 2 good signings, we have such a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, even just like for me, the striker, right? Like that's really key.
A striker, and winger, I think.
Yeah, the winger would be the icing on the cake, I guess you could say. But yeah, no, I think, and if they're the right moves, just all I have to say is remember Fabian Ernst and Yusuf Şimşek being the vital. Exactly. Junti
in 2000 and in January 2003, and Ernst and Yusuf in January 2009.
That's the kind of winter we need.
Marcelo in January 2015.
And perhaps again in 2020.
Who knows?
But yeah, take us out, Kaan. Give us the tweets, the twits, and whatnot.
You know where to follow us, people. Just go check out at Eagles_podcast and check out Sinan at Sir_writes_a lot. You can check me out at Razerian, RAZZERIAN, and you can follow Beşiktaş International at Beşiktaş_int. That's pretty much it for me. And
I gotta say something.
Yeah.
Go Beşiktaş! We're almost there.
Yeah, we are. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel for now.
Start formulating your favorite Beşiktaş players from the decade. We're going to do a top starting 11 for the decade episode in the break around New Year's-ish, sort of between December there. So start putting your thoughts on paper if you need to, and stay.
Yeah, it's just the player of the decade is the most important thing, I think. But I think there's only one man who can get that. Well, I think it's between 2 players, probably. But I know who's.
Don't give anyone any ideas. Let's not pee in the pool. But yeah, no. Stay tuned, everyone.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.